Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever looked at someone and thought, how do they manage to look so young, so vibrant, so alive? Is it just good genes, a skincare routine, or is there something deeper, something that can't be bottled or bought? Resilience in the face of adversity is not a trait we're born with, it's a decision we make, moment by moment, often in silence, often when no one is watching. It's what we do when the spotlight is gone, the applause has faded, and we are left alone with the weight of our fears, doubts, and disappointments. It's the quiet courage to keep going, not because the path is clear, but because the purpose is real. Adversity doesn't come knocking politely. It crashes through the doors of our lives with no warning, no invitation, no apology. It tests us not with easy questions, but with hard truths. It shows us who we are underneath the surface, beyond the smiles and titles and curated images. Some people run, some people freeze, but the resilient, they stand up again and again, even when it hurts, even when it's unfair, even when no one claps for them. They get back up, not because they enjoy the fall, but because something within refuses to stay down. Resilience is not loud, it doesn't boast, it doesn't need the world's validation. It's a soft, unbreakable kind of strength, the kind that shows up in the way someone keeps their integrity when they could choose convenience. In the way they speak with calm when chaos surrounds them, in the way they choose hope even when the facts point to despair. Real resilience isn't dramatic, it's disciplined. It's not about being fearless, it's about feeling the fear and walking forward anyway. There's a special kind of resilience that comes from being underestimated, from being overlooked, dismissed, doubted, and instead of collapsing under that weight, the resilient use it as fuel, not to prove others wrong, but to prove themselves right. They know their worth is not up for negotiation. They know their path may not look like anyone else's, and that's not a weakness, that's their edge, because when you've had to build yourself in the dark, you carry a fire no one can put out. People often assume that strength means not being broken, but that's the myth. The truth is, the strongest people are the ones who have been broken. But they rebuilt, they bled, they cried, they lost things they thought they couldn't live without. But they didn't let that loss define them. Instead, they became deeper, wiser, more grounded. There's a raw kind of beauty in that, not polished, not perfect, but powerful, because once you've seen the edge and chosen to live, really live, you stop fearing the fall. Resilience isn't about being unshakable. It's about learning how to bend without breaking. It's about knowing when to fight, when to let go, and when to rest. It's about trusting that the worst thing that happens to you doesn't have to be the last word in your story. You can write beyond it, you can rise beyond it, and what's more, you can help others do the same simply by being proof that it's possible. There's something magnetic about someone who's been through the fire and still chooses to be kind, who's been betrayed but still trusts, who's had every reason to harden but still keeps their heart open. That's not weakness, that's not naivety, that's resilience, and it's the kind that changes rooms. Changes conversations, changes lives. The truth is, life doesn't promise ease. It promises lessons, and if we are willing to lean in, to learn, to evolve, to endure, we come out the other side not just older, but wiser. Not just scarred, but seasoned. And somewhere along the way, we realize the adversity that tried to destroy us actually refined us. It exposed the raw material we're made of, and it turns out we're made of more than we thought. So no, resilience isn't glamorous, it's not always poetic. Sometimes it looks like showing up when you're exhausted. Sometimes it's choosing silence when anger would be easier. Sometimes it's just breathing through the pain and saying, not today, I won't quit today. That's the heartbeat of resilience, not the absence of pain, but the refusal to let pain win. And when we look back, we won't remember the days that were easy. We'll remember the days we almost gave up and didn't. The days we carried ourselves through darkness and came out the other side, because that's when we met the strongest, truest, most unshakable version of ourselves, not in the light, but in the fire. Beauty of intelligence is one of the most underestimated and misunderstood forms of allure. In a world that often glorifies appearance, filters, and fleeting trends, intelligence stands as something timeless, an elegance that doesn't fade, a glow that doesn't require spotlight. It's not about how much you know, but how you move through the world with what you know. It's about the way your thoughts shape your presence, how your mind speaks before your mouth does, and how your perspective has the power to shift rooms without needing to raise your voice. There is something magnetic about a person whose intelligence is not worn like a badge, but carried like an inner compass. The way they listen, not just to reply, but to understand. The way they ask questions, not to challenge, but to explore. The way their curiosity makes others feel seen, not judged. Intelligence at its most beautiful isn't arrogant, it's humble, it doesn't dominate, it invites, it doesn't shine to blind others, it illuminates the path for everyone in the room. It turns conversations into connection, silence into insight, and challenges into creativity. When someone is truly intelligent, you feel it in the way they handle conflict, with clarity, not chaos. You see it in how they manage stress, with thought, not panic. You hear it in how they speak, with precision, not pretense. There's a grace to their reasoning, a rhythm to their speech, a calm beneath their confidence. And that kind of composure, that kind of depth, doesn't just impress people, it inspires them. True intelligence knows that knowledge is not enough. It values emotional awareness, empathy, timing, tact. It knows when to speak and when silence says more. It knows that being right is not always more important than being kind. This kind of intelligence doesn't need to dominate a room because it already influences it. It doesn't need validation because its value is self-sustained. That's what makes it beautiful. It is anchored. It is whole. It is quietly, undeniably powerful. Beauty of intelligence can be seen in someone's eyes when they are genuinely intrigued, in the way their gaze sharpens during a meaningful conversation, in how they hold space for opinions they may not agree with but still respect. It shows in their body language, the way they lean in, the way they pause before speaking, the way their presence feels safe because their mind is open. It's not just about knowing facts or being well read. It's about being thoughtful, about having depth that others can sense, even if they can't quite describe it. There is something rare and irresistible about someone who can challenge your mind and comfort your heart at the same time, who can shift from discussing philosophy to laughing at the simplest joke without missing a beat, who sees the world with nuance, complexity, and compassion, that blend of intellect and humility. That's what captivates people. That's what draws others in and keeps them there, long after the novelty of surface-level attraction has worn off. The beauty of intelligence is also in how it helps someone adapt, to read a room, to evolve through pain, to respond instead of react, to lead without needing to control, to teach without making others feel small. A truly intelligent person lifts others by how they think, not just by what they say. They make you want to think deeper, live wiser, grow braver. Because their mind is not a fortress, it's a garden, and in their presence you can feel yourself bloom. In relationships, intelligence is what builds longevity. Looks may draw you in, but it's intelligence that holds your attention. It's what makes conversations stretch into hours, silences feel comfortable, and conflict turn into clarity. With someone who thinks deeply, loves intentionally, and sees you beyond your words, you feel known. Not just admired, but understood. That's beauty that can't be fabricated. That's attraction rooted in truth. So when someone carries intelligence with elegance, it becomes a different kind of beauty altogether. Not the kind that walks into the room demanding attention, but the kind that lingers in your mind long after they've gone. The kind that makes you question, reflect, and want to become more of who you are. Intelligence, when wielded with grace, becomes a light, not one that shines on itself, but one that helps others see more clearly, and there is nothing more beautiful than that. The power of presence is not about being loud or taking up space, it's about how you fill the space you're in. It's the silent strength that walks into a room before you say a word. It's the energy that turns heads without trying, the calm that steadies others just by being there. Presence doesn't need a spotlight. It creates its own. Some people enter quietly, and yet everything changes. The atmosphere shifts, the noise softens, and attention gravitates toward them. It's not because of what they're wearing or how they look, it's because of who they are when they walk in. Presence is not about commanding attention through force, it's about being so grounded in yourself that others feel it. It's confidence without arrogance, it's certainty without needing to prove anything. Presence begins with self-awareness. Knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you bring to the table allows you to show up with authenticity, and that authenticity radiates. People can sense when someone is genuine, when they're not performing, not posturing, just fully present. When someone listens without drifting, looks without judgment, and speaks with intention, it resonates. The world is full of noise, and yet presence is quiet but powerful. It's in the way someone holds eye contact, not to intimidate, but to connect. The way they nod, not just politely, but with understanding. The way they pause before responding, making space for the moment instead of rushing to fill it. Presence is about being fully where your feet are, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And in a world that constantly pulls our attention in 100 directions, that kind of focus feels magnetic. People with presence make others feel seen. They don't just talk, they engage. They don't just answer, they respond with depth. They don't dominate the conversation, they elevate it. There's no need to perform when presence is real, because real presence doesn't chase validation. It already knows its worth. It draws others not by force, but by the pull of calm confidence, quiet curiosity, and unwavering intention. Presence is also powerful in moments of difficulty. When chaos erupts, it's often the person with the strongest presence, not the loudest voice, who brings stability. They don't need to control the moment. They are the moment, they listen, they assess, they speak when it matters, they move with purpose, and others naturally follow, not because they're told to, but because they trust what they feel. There's something deeply reassuring about someone who can stay composed when everything else feels uncertain. The power of presence isn't about pretending to have it all together, it's about being real in a way that others can connect with. It's vulnerability paired with strength, silence paired with meaning, and stillness paired with awareness. People with true presence don't need to be the most educated in the room, or the most experienced, or the most attractive. What they possess is a deep inner alignment. What they believe matches what they say, and what they say matches what they do. There's also an emotional intelligence behind presence that often goes unnoticed. It's the ability to read the mood of a room, to sense tension without it being said, to offer comfort without needing permission. It's the small things, the tone of voice, the timing of words, the warmth of a glance. Presence is rarely about grand gestures. More often, it's subtle, layered, intentional. It's felt more than seen, remembered more than noticed, and it's not just about others. It changes you too. When you practice presence, you slow down. You listen more deeply, you think more clearly, you start to realize how much of life is missed in distraction, and how powerful you become when you commit fully to the now. Conversations deepen, relationships strengthen, decisions become sharper, you stop reacting and start responding, you stop proving and start living. Presence doesn't demand perfection, it requires presence, real presence, showing up not just with your body, but with your mind, your heart, your spirit. Because when you're truly present, you don't need to say much. Your energy says it all, and that kind of presence lingers long after the moment is gone. It's remembered in how you made someone feel. It's the mark you leave without trying. The echo of a moment that mattered. The quiet strength that said, I was here. Authenticity is ageless because it exists beyond trends, beyond appearances, beyond time. It's not something you grow out of. It's something you grow into. In a world obsessed with reinvention, authenticity is the quiet act of returning to yourself. It's the decision to stand in your truth, even when the world tells you to shift, shrink, or shine differently. And the remarkable thing about authenticity is that when you embrace it, you stop aging in the eyes of those around you. You become timeless, not because of how you look, but because of how deeply you live. There's something undeniably magnetic about someone who is unapologetically themselves. You can feel it in how they speak, without rehearsed perfection, but with raw sincerity. You hear it in their laughter, unfiltered and full-bodied. You see it in how they carry themselves, not needing to compete, not needing to impress. They wear their identity like a second skin, not a costume, and that confidence, rooted not in ego, but in truth, is more radiant than any serum or style could ever offer. The irony is that society tries so hard to sell youth, yet the most captivating people are those who no longer chase it. Instead of trying to erase their years, they own them. They don't hide their scars, they honor them. Because authenticity understands that every line on your face is a sentence in your story. Every experience, a chapter. There's beauty in that kind of depth, in that refusal to edit the parts of yourself that were born from struggle, joy, loss, and triumph. People often fear getting older because they equate it with becoming less seen. But when you are authentic, you don't fade, you become more visible, not in the shallow way that demands attention, but in a deeper way that draws respect. People look at you and see not just a person, but a presence, a life that has been lived with intention, a voice that speaks with the weight of experience, a soul that has nothing left to prove and everything left to give. Authenticity isn't loud, it doesn't need to be. Its power is in its stillness, its steadiness, its consistency. You know what to expect from someone who is authentic because they are the same person in every room. They don't mold themselves to fit in, they don't switch masks based on the audience, they don't perform, they show up, fully, honestly, whether you love them or not, whether you understand them or not. That kind of presence is rare and unforgettable. It also gives others permission to do the same. When you stand in your authenticity, you become a mirror for others to reflect on their own. People feel safer around you, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. You remind them that they don't have to be polished to be worthy, that they don't have to fit a mold to be meaningful. You shift the standard from impressing to connecting, from performing to being. As the years pass, what stays isn't the gloss or the glamour. It's the essence, the laugh that never changed, the kindness that deepened, the opinions that sharpened with time, not out of stubbornness but from lived truth, the boundaries that became firmer, not to push people away, but to protect peace. That is the kind of beauty that doesn't dull with age, it sharpens. It becomes more refined, more rooted, more resonant. You don't need to be young to be impactful. You don't need to be flawless to be beautiful. You don't need to fit in to belong. What you need is to be real, because real doesn't age, it evolves. Real doesn't fade, it deepens. Real doesn't compete, it completes. And the older you get, the more precious that becomes. People don't remember perfect. They remember real. They remember the ones who showed up with open hearts and unfiltered minds. The ones who told the truth even when it was hard. The ones who laughed without holding back. The ones who cried without shame. The ones who didn't let time turn them into someone else, but used time to become even more themselves. So yes, authenticity is ageless, not because it resists the passage of time, but because it flows with it. Because it understands that the most powerful thing you can ever be, at any age, is yourself, fully, boldly, honestly, and when you are, you don't just age, you shine. Youthfulness isn't just skin, deep, it's a state of being that radiates from within. It's not about having smooth skin or a wrinkle, free face. It's about the energy you carry, the light in your eyes, the curiosity in your thoughts, and the playfulness in your spirit. Some of the youngest people you'll ever meet have gray hair and laughter lines. What makes them youthful isn't the number of their age. It's the freshness of their outlook, the openness of their hearts, and the courage to keep growing, evolving, and exploring. There's a powerful difference between growing old and growing stale. Youthfulness means staying in touch with wonder, with awe, with excitement for life. It means not being hardened by time, not being closed off by routine, and not being trapped in the illusion that everything has already been seen, done, or felt. A youthful soul knows that every sunrise still holds mystery, that every person holds a story, and that every day offers the possibility of beginning again. It's not about resisting age, it's about embracing life. You can see this quality in the way someone engages with the world, in how they listen, fully attentively like they're hearing something for the first time, in how they laugh, not the polite kind, but the belly-deep kind that bubbles up without hesitation. In how they dance, not because they're trying to look a certain way, but because the music moved them. That's youthfulness. It lives in the willingness to be present, to be spontaneous, to be real. It's easy to think that youth is something you lose over time, but in truth, it's something you can choose. Every time you greet change with curiosity instead of fear, every time you stretch yourself beyond what's comfortable, every time you keep your heart soft in a hard world, you are choosing youth. It's not about avoiding the signs of aging. It's about refusing to let those signs define your spirit. There's something beautiful about someone who keeps learning, no matter their age, who still gets excited to discover a new author, learn a new skill, travel to a new place, or meet someone new. This thirst for life, for knowledge, for connection. That's the fountain of youth no one can bottle. Because the truth is, youthfulness doesn't fade, it's simply forgotten by those who stop nurturing it. People who remain youthful hold on to a kind of emotional flexibility. They don't let cynicism take root. They don't become so set in their ways that they forget how to be surprised, how to be inspired, how to feel joy without apology. Their minds stay open, their hearts stay wide, and their dreams remain alive. They don't let the weight of the world crush their sense of wonder. Instead, they keep showing up, with resilience, with imagination, and with hope. You don't need to look young to feel young. You don't need to fit society's shallow standard of beauty to be vibrant. Youthfulness is not about fitting in. It's about standing out with sincerity. It's about being fully awake to the moment and fully engaged with the people around you. It's about choosing lightness even when life gets heavy, about dancing even when your knees ache, about laughing even when you've seen enough to cry. That's not denial, it's defiance, a refusal to let life harden what should remain tender. There's immense strength in staying youthful in spirit. It means you haven't given up on the idea that life can be better, that people can be good, that love can still surprise you, that you still have something beautiful to offer, that you still have more to write in your story. It takes courage to stay soft, to stay bright, to stay curious when the world tries to wear you down. But those who do, those who protect that spark, shine in a way no wrinkle cream can replicate. Youthfulness is about how you carry yourself through time, not how slowly you age, but how fully you live. It's in the jokes you still tell, the music that still moves you, the tears you still let fall when something touches you deeply. It's in the friendships you nurture, the passions you pursue, the risks you still take. And it's in the quiet decision to never let the mirror decide how alive you are inside. So no, youthfulness isn't just skin, deep. It runs deeper than any cosmetic can reach. It's in your mind, your heart, your voice, your story. It's in your willingness to keep being you, fully, boldly, endlessly new. Grace under fire is one of the most powerful and compelling qualities a person can possess. It's not simply about staying calm in chaos. It's about remaining centered when everything around you tries to pull you off course. It's about responding with clarity when confusion clouds the room, about choosing dignity when you have every excuse to let go of it, and about standing tall not because life is easy, but because you've learned to carry weight with strength and poise. There is something deeply admirable about someone who refuses to crumble in the heat of pressure. Grace under fire doesn't mean being unaffected. It means being intentional. It means feeling the fear, the anger, the frustration, and still choosing your next words carefully. Still treating others with decency, still honoring your values when it would be so much easier to lash out, break down, or walk away. That kind of restraint doesn't come from weakness, it comes from power. A quiet, controlled, deeply rooted power. You can see it in someone's eyes when they're holding the storm at bay. They're not detached or emotionless. They're composed. They're present. They understand that how you act in the hard moments defines more about your character than anything you do when things are easy. Grace under fire is the quiet refusal to be consumed by what's happening around you. It's the decision to be better, not bitter, to rise above, not sink beneath. This kind of grace often shows itself in the way someone speaks during conflict, not to dominate, but to de-escalate, not to prove, but to understand. Their voice may be firm, but it's steady. Their tone may be direct, but it's respectful. They don't have to shout to be heard. Their calm speaks volumes. They don't need to win every argument. Their peace matters more than being right. That level of self-possession is rare and unforgettable. Grace under fire isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending to be okay when you're not. It's about choosing how you move through difficult emotions. It's about staying soft in the face of cruelty, staying open in the presence of judgment, and staying grounded when everything feels uncertain. It takes deep emotional intelligence to process pain without projecting it, to hold your space without making someone else feel small, to protect your peace without punishing others in the process. There's a particular strength in people who carry themselves with grace when they're being tested. They don't gossip, retaliate, or point fingers. They look inward, ask what they can learn, and take the next step with integrity. They don't waste energy trying to control what's out of their hands. They focus on what's within their reach. Their mindset isn't about surviving the fire, it's about walking through it with intention, with courage, and with honor. This grace shows up in leadership, too. The leaders who inspire most aren't those who demand respect, but those who earn it through the way they handle pressure. When things fall apart, they don't panic. They listen, they adapt, and they lead with empathy. They remain transparent even when the truth is hard. They own their mistakes even when it's inconvenient. And they make others feel safe, not because they promise perfection, but because they model resilience. Grace under fire is also deeply personal. It shows in how you speak to yourself in moments of failure. Do you berate yourself or encourage yourself to rise? Do you internalize criticism or filter it for what's helpful? Do you give up or get up? The way you treat yourself when no one is watching says everything about your ability to carry grace through the fire. You learn to breathe, to center, to quiet the chaos within, even when the world outside refuses to be still. There's no denying that fire tests us. It challenges our limits, exposes our fears, and forces us to confront parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore. But within that fire, there's opportunity to become sharper, wiser, more grounded. Grace doesn't avoid the fire. It walks into it knowing it won't be the same on the other side. And that's the point. It's a transformation, not a defeat. So when someone moves through pain, pressure, or public scrutiny with grace, they're not just surviving, they're elevating. They're writing a story that others will remember, not because they shouted the loudest or stood in the spotlight, but because they stood for something deeper. Something solid, something strong. That's grace under fire, fierce, quiet, unstoppable.